talk about using subtypes with a parcel fabric. So let's start first by understanding what subtypes are. There's a help topic called Introduction to Subtypes where you can find this information, but it's basically a way to separate features into different sets of features. And once you apply a subtype to a feature class, you can then use different domain values against each subtype, have different default values against each subtype, and most importantly, you will be able to define different rules. And we're talking about geodatabase topology rules and attribute rules for every subtypes. Because all the features are still contained within the same table in the geodatabase, many operations that require access to the table will be faster. So, what is the use case for using subtypes with the parcel fabric? So as we know, the current and historic parcels in a parcel fabric are contained within the same table. We can look at the current parcels by having a definition query that eliminates the historic ones. But because they are both stored, the historic and the current, in the same geodatabase table, if I wanted to apply a topology rule, for example, must not overlap, to these tables, to this data, it will not work because historic and current parcels overlap each other. So this is a good use case to using a subtype. And in ArcGIS Pro 3.6, you can use a new capability. Let's say that I would like to have this rule must not overlap on my tax parcels. I can add a new field to this data. So I'll go to the data design fields, and we are going to add a new field called is retired. And it's going to be a long. You can have an alias here as well, and press save. And once we see this field in the schema, we will populate it with a value 1 if it's retired and 0 if it's current parcel. Now that we've added this field, let's configure a subtype on this data. So I'm going to go again to the data design subtypes, and we can add another subtype here. So create or manage, and we are going to choose the is retired field. And now we can specify the codes. All we need is two codes, 0 for the current parcels and 1 for the retired or historic. You can call it retired or historic, however you feel, or a different name for that matter, and press OK. So we can see that the current and the default value will be 0 as default, and now we can press it and it's saved as part of the schema. So it's applying the changes. And now that we've created the field, we created the subtype. Before we start using it, we have some historic data here as well. It's important to set it before we add the parcel fabric again to a new map. So let's open the attribute table for the historic parcels here. And you can see there's a sample data, so I only have a few. And we'll go to the is retired, and we have to populate it with a value of 1. So we'll use the calculate field. Is retired is 1. Okay. And you can see now that it's picked up the domain, the subtype, so it's retired. And we'll do the same for the current parcels. Open the attribute table. And it's null now. We'll calculate it to be 0. And press OK. And if we look, they're all current. So now they're not in limbo. All the features in this table are either belong to the historic subtype or the current subtype. Now, this is still the old way of using the layers without subtypes, but there's a subtype layer. And if you now add your data with a subtype to a new map, we're going to get a subtype layer. And a subtype layer has some performance benefits. I'm going to add the editing layers for this sample data. and it will look the same. I think our parcel is somewhere here. And let's turn off the parcel type that are not relevant for now. I'll minimize them. And if we look at the text now, you'll see that I have a different type of layer, and this is a subtype layer. Okay, so the disadvantage of it is, of course, that now if I wanted to see only historic, I would have to click here, but then I would also have to click off the current text lines to only see the historic parcel. And if I want to see only and here's the lines, so now I can see the historic lines as well. So there's a bit more clicking to do when using the subtype layers if you want to see current or historic, right? So you can apply this field to the polygons, and you can also apply it to the lines. So let's not forget why we created a subtype is to define different rules. So now I can go to the geodatabase topology properties, and we can go to the rules, and I can add another rule, and I can say now that the tags, let's maximize the screen a bit, and you can see there's a subtype field here. So I can now say tags current parcels, and the rule must not overlap. Okay, and I can press OK. So now I'm able to run the must not overlap only against the current parcels and not against the historic parcels that are allowed to overlap, as you can have multiple historic features in the same location. Now, when not to use a subtype layer. So as you can see here, I'll go to the editing map, original one. If you go to the, let's say, encumbrance type, or lots and units, I think, conveyance division. This is not the old map I was looking for, but the point is that you might have different encumbrance types, right? So if you want to symbolize it by different encumbrance type, all you can do, you can basically go to the symbology, and if you have a field, you can use to symbolize by unique values, right? So you can use by encumbrance type, and now you can see there's multiple encumbrance type. So you don't need a subtype in order to symbolize by different types of encumbrance or conveyance division or whatever it is. You can just use a field. You don't need a subtype for that. And you can have for each one a different editing template as well. And there's no need to create subtypes unnecessarily, because as I said, creating a subtype might, if done for not the right reason, will increase the number of clicks on the maps and will require a bit more configuration to configure your map properly. So use it carefully and wisely. You can only have one subtype per table. So of course, if you use the subtypes for historic and current parcels, you cannot use it for any other other field than that. Like I cannot use different subtypes. If I use it for the encumbrance and I want to have these different encumbrance easement types, then I am not able to use it for historic and current, right? So you have to choose what you use it for, and hopefully this will solve the problems for some of you that relied on geodatabase topology to manage your parcels in ArcMap and need to move into ArcGIS Pro. Thank you.